call this meeting of the Finance Committee to order and ask that we begin our meeting by pledging allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Breaks on this.
So the first thing on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have 4 sets of minutes sent out to you. A couple of them I'm sure you've got twice in your folders. But let's take them one at a time. And we'll start with the minutes of April 10th.
Since as I wrote those, I should know.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 10th.
Motion by Chuck. A second. Any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll take a vote.
Aye.
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 Anthony votes aye, and the chair abstains. All right,
Make a motion to accept the minutes of April 24th, 2023.
Second.
yes, there's a misspelling there of the month, April. All right, motion made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? This was the meeting, a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen. Hearing none.
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain? Aye.
Aye, and the chair abstains. Neither Doug nor I were at that meeting. Okay,
I make a motion to accept the minutes of April 26th, 2023.
Second.
motion made and seconded for the meeting of April 26th, which was the public hearing on the warrant. It's made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none.
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So that's another 4-0 to 1 vote. And the last one is the May 9th meeting.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of May 9th, 2023.
Second?
All right, moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Chuck?
Abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So we have 4-0 and 1 abstention. Very good. All right, next on the agenda is the chair's report. I had, just wanted to bring you up to date. At our last meeting, we had considerable discussion and concerns about the fact that the revenues reports were clearly behind. I had an opportunity to talk with Katie Medina, the town accountant. She acknowledged that they were behind. It's a new process, as we all know. There's going to be a certain amount of learning on the job required of Katie. Fortunately, she is working once or twice a week with Joanne Gogan, but it is a work in progress too. She is learning on the job, and had not been able to reconcile the revenues since March, I think. So she is making some progress on it. The revenues reports this month are not up to date, but she said that they reflect revenues up through the middle of April. And she expects to be able to reconcile the rest of the revenues by the end of the fiscal year, which is coming up fast. And at that point, we'd have a more accurate picture. Certainly looking at revenue reports, is obviously significantly lower than they should be at this time of the year. Same thing with the enterprise fund revenues. But I just point out that they don't reflect where we are in the fiscal year. They reflect where we were back in April.
What month, Mr. Kane, do we usually get those all cleared up so we can send them to state? Is that by the end of July, mid-August, on a good year?
I think I think by early August, the accounting department would be have its books in order to be able to submit
Yeah.
to the state. The state needs to go over the revenues of the town over the course of the previous year, all of the other accounts that are out there, that money that's been allocated for certain things, decide which ones might be able to be released, in which case, at which time they will identify certify our free cash. So that's what rides on it. There are, prior to our difficulties with the deficit, we weren't getting our reports in a timely fashion. So we weren't getting free cash certified.
Right.
Not that there was any free cash to certify, it turned out. But since then, we've gotten our free cash certified in plenty of time to plan how to use it at the fall town
Fall
meeting.
town meeting.
Yeah,
And of course, this also affects school.
yeah, yeah. So, I think right now, we're being hopeful, but I think we also need to realize that there's a chance that this could move on into the summer, and we might be filing for, to the
extension.
state later than we have been in the last several years.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
You might have just said this, but they indicated when they thought they would be caught up or not at this point?
Katie hasn't given me a date at all, no, but I guess, in my conversation with her, letting her know what my concern is that, about free cash, getting our books certified and knowing where we are. There was a lot of, several items on the town meeting that basically assume that we're gonna have the kind of free cash that we've had in the last several years. Whittled our free cash account down from about $1.3 million to $200,000. So the idea that it'll be replenished, I'd have a better idea of that if I knew what the revenues were.
So I'm assuming this is not within our purview, but can they somebody make a recommendation that they use a Robert Half or an accountant or someone externally to help accelerate this process and get it done close to the time that it would normally be done?
At this point, all I can say is that they give me assurances that they can do that.
I think Ms.
Yeah,
Gogan's
so, I mean, I,
working with her too, so,
yeah, Joanne is working with them. I mean, the reality is, all we can do is speculate.
Right.
And my concern is that is the same as yours, is that we're speculating and we're being optimistic, perhaps, but at this point in time, it seems like you have to take it with a certain grain of salt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be critical of anyone, but past performance is not indicating that this is going to get taken care of anytime soon. And as a committee, we're flying blind. We don't really know what the revenues are. I think if I saw correctly, the last 2 years were, at this time of the year, 93% and 96% of the revenues had been collected.
Yep.
Yep.
Now we're at I'm sure we're much higher, but it shows on paper we're 71 or
71,
whatever. it is.
72, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not good.
So, Mr. Kane, is it possible for you to pop in at this point, maybe even weekly, to see how they're doing, and then just send us an email that we don't respond to, saying, we finished April, or we're going into May, to give us
yeah,
a little
certainly,
bit of,
yeah, certainly we can, yeah, do that. Certainly be willing to make a weekly check-in with Joanne, with Katie, and town manager.
Yeah, yeah.
To see how we're doing. If you remember, the last time we met, we had talked about hopefully getting an updated report before this meeting.
right.
And we- So it wasn't updated to the point where they could give us an up-to-date report. No, I mean, I share everybody's concerns. You know, one, we have an accountant who's learning on the job. She's bright. I think she'd be a good accountant. But if you're gonna learn, you gotta learn from somebody. So Joanne's helping out with that situation. The town manager's gonna be leaving in 3 or 4 weeks. We don't have an interim town manager at this point in time. So there's a lot of unknowns. That's all I can say. It's an awful lot of unknowns that I don't think we have any control over. And,
But we do need to monitor it.
yeah, we can monitor it as closely as we can and try to be aware of as much information as possible. But we are gonna deal with a certain amount of angst over the next few months, I think, as we work through this. So that's my report.
That was uplifting.
Oh, one other thing I guess I had down here is, I bumped into, in the office, the Chair of the Board of Selectmen, Audrey, and she had asked about, don't we usually have a tri-board meeting in June? I don't know if we always have had one in
I
June.
think so. We used to
but-
have one in August after school started, because we'd get an update from the school on how
Yeah.
opings days went, and how the end of the fiscal year end and filings to state and all that. That would be August, September.
I'm wondering if it would make sense to schedule something in early July, just to do a gut check as to where we are.
Maybe wait till we have a
an
interim
interim?
town manager,
Well,
so that he
it's
can see the players, or she, and
good. Yeah, I'm not sure what we do necessarily. I guess what I was looking for was, what is the plan?
that's
You know,
right.
What is the plan and the timeline for, I mean, we're 13th of June right now. I think it's highly unlikely that we'll have an interim in place beginning of July. We might, but
Pretty
Um,
scary if we don't.
that's why I brought it up, yeah. So anyway, something to think about. There may be some informal conversation
Yeah.
with the Chair of the Board of Selectmen, just to get an update on where they are. Might help. All right, year-to-date reports?
I kind of, until they're more together, what do you do with them?
I mean, one of the things Doug asked me before the meeting began is, we know we don't have up-to-date revenue
Yeah,
information. Do we have up-to-date expense information? I think we do, because of the process that's used with that.
well, I
But-
still see a lot of zeros on encumbrances, so it gives me pause to think, are we close? Is there more coming that we don't know about? schools seem to be doing a pretty good job this year.
Yeah, they're pretty well balanced out.
Yep.
Bottom lines aren't that far off on expenses.
Yep.
For the school or the town.
Yeah, even the
So,
town bottom line is
I
good.
think our expenditures are roughly in the same areas. Going through the accounts, I mean, one of the things you look for at this time of the year is to see if there are any accounts that have some big balances that would be able to use to offset some of the accounts that have been overspent. And there are a couple. But, for instance, the school choice and charter school right now is running about 66%, but the billing for that comes quarterly. So we still have another quarter to pay this,
Yep.
to submit to the state. But I would think that if it's at 66% right now, that, we'd probably be looking at about 90%, so there might be a 10% savings in what was estimated for those accounts.
The school's at 84% spent, the town is at 88% spent, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think at this point in time, what we're seeing right now is really, okay, where are the sources of unspent,
Yeah. Where are we gonna transfer from?
budgeted money,
Yeah.
that we can use to balance our budgets. And, not knowing where we are with the revenue side, we won't know whether there's a general imbalance of those two until we get that caught up. Anything else on year-to-date reports? All right, so next we've got representative committee reports and appointments. This is the second agenda item that we had suggested including in our agenda on a monthly basis. One of the things we need to do is reappoint the representatives from the Finance Committee to each of the committees, each of the standing committees. The Capital Planning Committee is probably the,
Audit,
the audit. The fire station's sort of an ad hoc committee, and I'm not sure, I know the CPA committee is,
apparently they wanna keep going.
yeah, they
So-
want to keep going.
That was Adrian, right?
Yes, yeah.
We'll have to ask him if he's willing
And
to
Chuck, would
audit.
you re-up for the audit committee?
Yep.
All right. And Doug?
Happy to do
Planning Committee, and I think James is
James is fine.
right now in the fire station.
I did talk to Adrian at the town meeting
Yeah.
about the CPA, and my impression was that he was still interested in
Yeah.
participating,
Yeah.
so.
So next committee, Anthony, you'll be on deck.
We'll find one.
Okay, be sure of that. The other committee that's an ad hoc committee that we've been asked to serve on is the Town Manager Search Committee. There's representative from the Finance Committee and the School Committee, and I think the Planning Committee.
No, so school committee, their rep is Ms. Cast, Karen Cast, and then there'll be 5 from the community that the selectmen appoint. There'll be a 7-member
There's
committee.
going to be 7 members.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, with that said, Mr. Chair,
With that said, I had emailed all of you and just encourage any of you that might be interested in doing this to get back to me. And
Yeah.
one of you made a mistake.
I had some thoughts on it. First and foremost, you've got more on your plate than almost anyone in the community, and I don't think it's fair to burden you with another responsibility.
Oh, you're just too kind.
And, I mean, I would be willing to do it if no one else is interested, so I'll throw my hat in the ring.
I'd make a motion to nominate Doug Delay because of his experience in other departments, other areas in this very thing. I think that he would represent us well.
I think he will too.
Second.
Seconded, Chuck. All in favor of
Aye.
having Doug represent us?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's fine, thank
So I
you.
would just need to know the schedule and who to contact and,
Yeah,
Well,
and,
actually, they'll contact you because
yeah,
Okay.
right now,
your name to the Mary, I guess. and-
yeah, I'll submit your name tomorrow, let them know. And I think at this point in time, there's two things they need to do first. One is hire a consultant firm
Right.
that will head up the search. And then the second is hire, an interim town manager. And there may be a different consultant firm looking for that, looking to add something there. And then the committee, once they hire a consultant firm, they'll oversee some of the administrative things that need to be done, getting out RFPs and they'll organize the committee, develop a profile of what the committee feels the town needs, and use that as, develop their criteria for assessing and evaluating candidates. So, it's a pretty thorough position. Just to be clear, it's a search committee, so the search committee isn't hiring the new town manager. It is, but what it does do is go through all the applicants and narrow down to 2 or 3 finalists. And then the Board of Selectmen interview the finalists and make the decision.
Before we leave committees, I was a little concerned with the audit committee last year. We got things late, and do you anticipate there'd be a change this year?
I'm hopeful.
Do we need to make an official request that they take this job seriously? When the audit committee was put into place, it was to be separate from the town manager's office. It was to be the oversight, not to be an arm of it. And in deference to Mr. Saltzback, he has tried to stay away, but in doing so, they aren't meeting as regularly. You should be meeting in early August, at the very latest September, for the individual audits. You should be getting updates on that, and that didn't happen last year. And until you pushed, so I guess I'm saying if you're feeling that you have to be pushing again, if you think more clout would come from this committee let us know.
I will definitely let you
Yeah,
know. Yep.
Because I don't think we should be going through, especially with the change in town management, another year like last year.
Correct.
Right? Yeah, and it's probably something that isn't gonna be able to wait till we have another
No.
town manager.
Well, and the whole bylaw is that he's not supposed to be involved.
Yeah. I'm thinking if the audit committee organizes, like you said, by late August, early September, we may not even have a long-term,
That's right.
permanent town manager at that point in time.
But at that point, they might want to
Right.
reconsider their board, and if folks don't have time to be in charge, maybe somebody else can step up and.
All right, any other questions or any reports, anything that any of our representatives here want to report to the committee as a whole? All right. So next is the end of the year budget transfers. We have actually a little mix of budget transfers, requests, and reserve fund requests. So it's a little bit of, little mix.
So you want to take them in order here? My first one is ambulance certification. Is that what you have?
All right. Yeah,
So Mr. Chief Smith is here if we have any questions. We should have questions because he doesn't really want to come all this way and not have.
well, when I had checked ambulance certification to see what the balance was. It was $6,138.
$38.75. Yeah.
And we're looking for $6,200, so
Yeah,
that
so I
became
was-
problematic right away. But Katie explained to me that you'd made a transfer from one of the other accounts, and that
To cover-
balance is,
Process of transfer into that one account.
yeah.
Hi, good evening. We've been working diligently with Katie to transfer some of the smaller accounts that we absolutely will not be using into that ambulance certification account to come to you for one transfer into the overtime account,
Instead of a bunch. Appreciate that.
instead of 15 small ones on your table.
Right.
Basically, what we've ended up trying to do, and with a few weeks left, I'm still determined to do it, is we don't want to come to you for any money, but that out of the reserve account, hopefully. With the year we've had, we just shut down spending enough, early enough to try to transfer from some of these. Not saying that as the last 2 weeks go by, we've met before about the overtime and the issues we've had throughout the year with the overtime staffing. So this is kind of our attempt to keep putting it all into, and what we can into overtime to cover the expenses from, and it's hard. Right now, I've got 2 full-timers out again, with one with a broken foot and one due any day now. So it's been one of those years, but we're working as a department to get things transferred in so that we don't have to go outside of the fire department and the ambulance organization as far as our budgets and our
So
expenses.
we will have this 6,200 in there.
Yeah.
Or it is in
Yes.
there now. Okay, so I'll make a motion to,
Yeah, because you had moved, what, a couple $1,000s into there?
Yeah, we've moved a couple different accounts into that, and then we're transferring that one out of that into this. And then, again, we'll probably pretty much do the same setup after the next payroll when we see what we actually need exactly. I didn't want to just guess and randomly throw
Right.
numbers at you. I want to come to you with the exact numbers, so.
okay, I'll make a motion to accept the transfer from ambulance certification to FD overtime in the amount of $6,200.
Second?
And seconded. Any questions for Chief Smith? All right, hearing none. All in favor of the motion to make the transfer? Chuck?
Aye.
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 The chair votes aye. All right, and the next one, Tom, is from Fire Department Building and Equipment Repair that has a balance right now of $7,731.36, at least it did for our last report. And you want to transfer $3,700.81?
Not
Yeah.
that 1 cent.
Again, we are cleaning up certain accounts, and at this point, every penny helps. So we are transferring it right down to the number, literally. And again, we didn't transfer the whole account because at this point, we're hoping to, again, when we get a more accurate number with the last 3 weeks of the month with
Yeah.
overtime expenses, shifts, any time off, personal time that has to be used, then once that's filled, we'll have a better, as we go forward, and again, to your next meeting, by that point, we'll have all of the numbers will be, I assume it'll probably be in July, I would think. Usually you meet
Yeah.
the second week of July,
I think we're, right,
which we'd have all our numbers in by then.
right. The town manager I had some conversation with him today, and he asked if we would meet on the 27th, I think, of June, and then again in July. I'm not sure why we would meet on the 27th of June, to be honest with you.
I'll still have 3 days, 4 days, 3 days of numbers after
That's
that, that
right.
I'd still,
July
Yeah,
10th.
Yeah, I
think
mean,
the
it's
10th makes more
basically,
sense. 10th or
you take
11th.
a gut check then with 4 days left, it just doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense to me. I think we did last year, which is probably what he's thinking of, but, you know, they'll be done, we'll have very accurate information once we get to July 1, you know, once we get past June 30. So I think, I'm thinking, well, it's up to the committee, but the more I'm thinking of it, I'm thinking, it still leaves us with,
Juggling.
with things we're going to have to come back to, because we're just not sure what the thing's going to be. Yeah, I was, you know, I know you're trying to cover that overtime, and I think that's great. I am kind of concerned a little bit that, you know, we still have a couple of payrolls that's going to come out of this, but
Yep.
I know you're well aware of it, so I'm sure you're factoring that in right now.
So I'll make a motion to recommend the $3,700.81 from Fire Department Building and Equipment Repair to FD overtime.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions for Chief Smith? Yes.
So my only question is, it's safe to assume that in July, there'll be more requests to cover over additional
I will be
overtime?
back. Unfortunately, I have to come back once I get more accurate numbers,
It's
because
encouraging you to come back, but sure.
no, I didn't want to just
I
throw
understand.
guess numbers at you. I don't like that, so I just wanted to.
As the chief sort of said, though, he has a couple of more payrolls, and so he wants to make sure
Right.
of the numbers rather than us guessing.
Yeah.
Do it once and do it
If you look
right.
at the whole total fire department personnel right now, yeah, the negative is the 34,000 in overtime.
That's actually been transferred from the other accounts, so that's actually, what you've got in front of you is actually old. Currently,
But you've
what
done
we've
some
transferred
things
now,
with-
she's done some transfers that I'd put through, and that account currently, as of today, with this transfer, will be, I believe, like $6,000 in the black.
Yeah.
So we'll be heading into the black. I think it was 6, it was either 3 or 6, someplace in there, but it's in the black as of if these transfers are approved.
But compared to what last year was like 250 or 260,000, this is good.
Yeah. And
Going in the right direction.
And, you know, my point was that one line item is, you know, is
We've had a very
short
rough year with that
34,000,
line item.
but there's still $133,000 in
In
your.
the budget.
Right,
Yeah.
in the personnel accounts. And as long as that bottom line isn't a negative, within that account area, you know, like you get money left over in holiday pay, that would be able to cover it, what have you.
And that's where some of the transfers have come between those, the spare accounts, different accounts that earlier in the year, before we made some wage adjustments, there was shifts not being taken. We had made some adjustments throughout the year, and we've come to that. We've also, unfortunately, with the overtime account being so over, we had a lot of people out for various times for a month or two at a time throughout this year. I think we've probably had 5 or 6 children born this year.
Yeah.
We've had just a number of people out for a couple of different back injuries, a shoulder surgery. We've had a lot of, now a broken foot, that we've had a number of, and they're not short-term replacements, they're a month or two at a time, which really hampers our overtime account. We've recognized it and tried to shut down in other areas in the town, you know, whether it's been, you know, electric, whether it's been expenses, put off buying some equipment that we need until we, you know, possibly into July, you know, when the next fiscal, would just try to push it off a little bit, and we've, you know, the guys have all been great as far as the
Yeah.
department to try to make that change, so we're just plugging along on it. The good news is ambulance revenues and your revenue stream, it's good news versus that, are going to be probably about $140,000 more than we projected from last year.
For ambulance,
We are
right?
currently running, May and June will be we were at last year's collection rate as of the end of May.
So that's great.
End of April. So May and June will be over what we collected last year.
Yeah,
So
good.
to add a little brightness to your bleak
Yeah.
revenue
Well,
stream.
as I said, that's the frustrating part in terms of not having that report up to date. You look at it at a point in time, I always kind of do the mental math and say, okay, when I'm looking at the personnel side, what month are we in? What percentage of the overall salaries have been paid out by this point in time, just to give me some idea as to where we are. And I think we're probably running closer this year to, in terms of expenditures, closer to what we budgeted than in years past, where we've always had, a couple of accounts that came in, we either overestimated what we're gonna need, or we underestimated what we're gonna spend, So, I've been looking for those accounts as I go through the overall monthly report.
So I have
It's a little bit of a guessing game.
this has nothing to do with fire department overtime, but just in general, we're making an adjustment this month, we're making another adjustment to the same account next month. Is there benefit to splitting that up like this, or should we just, in the future, just wait until we know what the final number is? And the only thing I can assume is that there's some benefit to allocating those funds so they don't go elsewhere?
On my end, the reason I did not bring it all to you at once is that I don't know the exact last on a few of those accounts, so if I don't have to buy as many medical supplies over the last 2 or 3 weeks of the fiscal year, that's more money that I have in the account, and less that I can transfer in, and less that I have to ask for you out of the reserve that another department may end up needing for a reserve. So I think on the department heads, and I think we're just trying to look out for each other as far as the departments go, and if we can keep it within, that's our goal. And if we have to come to the reserve, then, it's,
Right. Well, and the reason I think I'm looking at these as carefully is that we really have very little in the contingency, the reserve contingency fund. And if you look at the end of the monthly report, you would think that we had quite a bit of money in the budget right now. But 50,000 was allocated at the last town meeting for fuel costs, and only for fuel costs. It didn't get separated out as a separate line item. So we said our contingency is what it always was, $40,000, and we've used 17.5 out of that. So we're looking at 23.5, I think, is what we have right now, and there's a couple of requests for it. It's going to bring it down to, or 17.5, so it's going to bring it down to, at the end of the night, about $4,000. And I just bring that to your attention, because if you look at the numbers, it looks like there's $65,000 or $67,000 in the reserve account. Except for fuel, there's really $17,000 in the reserve account. So, we need to really look at where are those unexpended funds to balance out anything that's coming in after that.
And to Doug's point, though, I think if you know that you can transfer out of account A into account B, it helps the accountant so that she's not, or he's not making 150 transfers in a 5-day period. If they can do some ahead of time that they know are easy, it helps them do their books for the end of the year.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
do you still need to vote on that last transfer? Did you vote on the last transfer, or
You
you?
got a motion
Oh,
and a
we
second.
have a
We didn't-
I don't think you actually voted on it.
old people
All
up
right,
here.
there's a motion to transfer $3,700.81,
I just wrote that we did.
right, from the fire department building and equipment to the overtime check.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
The chair votes aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, so the next one is,
Streetlights?
is it, the next one, streetlights?
8,000?
Yep. No, that's a request for transfer from the reserve fund.
Yeah.
So let's just finish the budget transfers
Do we have
first.
budget?
Yeah, there's one more, it's from the IT tech salary to the town manager's executive assistant
Oh, yeah.
account.
Okay, because when I looked at that one, that account is $46,338.84 in the red. We're transferring $7,072. Even if you look at the bottom line of that entire personnel, and then we still have payroll to do,
Right.
there's still 21,000, so we're moving 7,000, but it's not gonna cover the shortfall. I guess my question is, why are we doing it until we know what the final number is?
I don't know. I mean, it's, why would we meet again on the 27th without the final numbers
Yeah,
again? So,
I mean, I have no problem making the
You know,
transfer, and if it just makes
right.
it easier for them, it just.
I mean, I
to
know
me-
the $7,072 is an unexpended line
Yeah.
item, so put that one in. It's kind of piecemeal approach to it.
It is.
Because you come up with, here's the number we gotta come up with, then you come up with your litany of accounts that it's gonna come from and do it all at one time.
And I have no problem making the motion to transfer, $7,072 from IT tech salary to TM executive assistant.
All right, there's a motion,
Second.
seconded by Doug. So it is just, when I talked to the town manager, he indicated that, he anticipates some additional budget transfers and then perhaps using some ARPA money by justifying that on some of the project management that she did while she's been here for the last few months. All right, so we got a motion on the floor. Any questions, Chuck?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
The chair votes aye. All right, so now we'll look at the requests for transfers from the reserve fund. I don't know if I was clear about that. I did stop and spoke with the town accountant today just to make sure what I was seeing was what she was seeing. And what you had explained to me is that when the town voted to set up the $50,000 reserve fund for fuel, this was back in October, when fuel prices were still very speculative, no idea where they were going, knowing that we're probably underfunded in any of the fuel accounts of the town decided to voted to take $50,000 out of free cash and set up a reserve account. I guess the recommendation from council was rather than set up a separate account, just to add that money into the FinCom reserve account, since it was the FinCom that would had the decision-making powers, authorization powers for use of that money. What I didn't want to do was get the two funding mixed up. 40,000 and for the annual contingency and 50,000 for the fuel. But putting them in the same account, it's confusing if you don't remember where the money came from.
So we have 3 from the reserve fund, 1 is for heating fuel, so that would come out of the 50,000.
That's correct.
Mrs. Ward, the streetlights would too, because the way that account was set up was for power, fuel for the vehicles or heating fuel. Yep, it was written for utilities. So that's why that's requested to come out of the
Right,
50.
you're right, it could be vehicle fuel, heating fuel, electricity.
Yep, exactly. And then there's a small clause with, I just read the article.
Yeah.
And it says, hold on, let me grab it. There's a clause in there for price increases on unexpected materials. It says, escalate, response to escalating energy and inflammatory costs. So it could be seen outside of those 3 items as well. If you had something that was typically $50 and they jumped it to $150 or $100, that would be an inflammatory cost.
I would say that we made it very clear that it was going to be used for inflationary impact on fuel costs, electricity, heating fuel, and gasoline, for vehicles. That was pretty clear, and we've, certainly been able to do it that way. I don't see why we can't continue to do it, but what I want to make clear is that 50,000 then can't be used to supplement the budget.
Correct.
Whereas the $40,000 can be used to supplement the budget.
The ones that I have in front of you are for what it was intended for.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so the first one is to transfer $8,000 for streetlights.
So I have a question on that one, because you're requesting $8,000. The available budget is $2,720 in the red, and only $2,000 in encumbrances, which brings us around $5,000. Why are we requesting 8?
Because of the solar Onyx agreement, that bill is not consistent. Typically, our bill for June comes in higher, so whatever money's not used will go back to free cash, just like the remainder of the 50,000. So we come once.
So why are we doing it before we have the bill? Why don't we wait till we have the bill?
Because there's no guarantee that the bill is gonna come in time, because solar Onyx is not reliable for on time. So if I have the money in the account, I can encumber it, and then what's not used goes to free cash. That's the tough part, is that we're not always guaranteed that these bills come in on time before that July
So
15th
does our
deadline.
reserve fund go into free cash if we don't use it?
Oh, sure.
That's,
I was thinking we were gonna get lunch.
that was my reasoning for doing it, to make sure that we can cover it.
So this would be coming from the 50 that's already been set aside for those,
No, this would be coming from the
remaining.
17,500 left of the 40,000.
Nope, Mr. Chair, that's power, so that comes out of the 50.
Oh, I see what your angle is here.
Yeah, see, what Mr. Croto just read would suggest that everything but the vehicle maintenance would come out of the 50 then, right?
100%, yes. Yep, the vehicle maintenance was the only one that was coming out of your original
Original
40.
17,000, okay,
We-
or the remaining 17,000.
Correct.
So you're quite certain that the shortfall in the streetlights has to do with the inflationary cost of electricity and not the impact of all of the lighting that we've put in?
The impact of the
Central
lighting that we
Street?
put in is minimal. Those lights are solar, and there's not much cost to them on a monthly basis.
So it's the overall increased cost of electricity for, all right,
Yes, sir.
by that.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to transfer $8,000 from the reserved fund fuel account to streetlights.
Second.
All right, so there's a motion made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? To move the $8,000 from the reserve that was established at the October meeting. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
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 The chair votes aye. All right, and then the next one that would be coming out of the, that heating reserve or the fuel reserve would be the $1,536.24.
I'll make a motion to move $1,536.24 from the reserved fund for fuel to the heating fuel account.
Second.
All right,
So is this going to DPW or fire department or police or town hall?
Nope,
or-
that's just my account, just DPW.
Okay,
That was our overage for the year.
all right.
It helps if you put the account number.
My apologies.
Okay,
All right, any other questions
we
or
like numbers.
comments? All right, Chuck?
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Okay. And the fire vehicle maintenance request is, it would come out of the operational
Yes.
$40,000.
Yes, sir.
All right, so the 17.5 in that,
Minus 4.
minus 4. So, okay, so we got a balance of 13.5
12,
in the contingency
13.5.
reserve.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to transfer 4,000 from the regular reserved fund to fire vehicle maintenance, which is also a DPW account, right?
Yes.
a second.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Croto? Right, hearing none. Chuck?
Aye.
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 The chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. All right. I think that's all of them, right?
I believe so.
All right. So as I had mentioned, in my conversation with the town manager today, he asked if we might be able to meet on Tuesday, the 27th of June, to go over more of the requests, and then we'll be meeting in our regular July meeting, which I think is the 13th.
Not with the 11th.
Was it
July 11th.
11? Okay, which would give us plenty of time for the deadline, because the deadline for making transfers, I think is the 15th of July, so we'd have time to do it. So thoughts about meeting on the 27th?
What, if we don't have accurate numbers to what we talked about earlier tonight, why are we guessing at it? Why don't we wait till the 10th, finish off those payrolls, get accurate numbers, and
Know exactly what it is.
make the transfers?
I mean, unless there's some benefit to the town that I'm not understanding
Yeah,
at this point, I don't see the point in having that meeting.
no, it sort of,
The 7th.
kind of looks like we did before our town meeting with the warrant articles, and without the numbers, there's nothing we can do.
Do we know if and what other information will be provided on that night?
Right,
There's no specifics to it?
with being so far behind right now, and that's only a couple of weeks
We'll be
away.
closing the books till the 30th, so there's always that certainly, I mean, you'd have,
Suppose, other
a
than,
lot of them have to do with payroll.
I was gonna say,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
other than payroll, if there are accounts that are other than payroll, maybe they're finalized for the year a few days early?
I would think that, you know, that your billing and is pretty well done 3 or 4 days before,
I don't,
before the end of the fiscal year. So
Yeah.
things are gonna slow down in terms of purchase orders and that type of thing. And I just don't see what the advantage is of doing it twice instead of doing it once.
do it once.
So what's your pleasure?
I would say do it once on the 11th.
11.
I agree.
Agree.
All right, and I will, let Justin know that we're just as soon do them all at one time instead of splitting them up. Give Katie a little extra time to make sure everything's up to date.
I think it helps us too if we can see the big picture, because when you do bits and pieces, then you're trying to remember where they came from a week later, and it's,
Right. Yeah, because the other thing is, I mean, I forget which account it was, but I think the first one that Tom had, and when I got the request, I said, well, according to
Right, the
our
report.
year-to-date reports, there
Yeah.
wasn't enough money to cover the $6,200. But Tom had already transferred some
Transferred it
money
in.
into that, so it balanced it. But, you know, you get information to use just to do your due diligence,
Yeah.
make sure the money's there.
so I would rather, like on the 11th,
It's not
even
up
if
to
we
date.
didn't have a total year-to-date report done, I would like to have an up-to-date report on those accounts that we are transferring to and from.
Yeah,
That,
well, that's right. I mean,
that we need to have.
you know, it should be able to get, I mean, usually what we do is we'll get a year-to-date report like we do every month.
Yeah.
Post, you know, an end-of-the-year report. And
Yeah.
it's pretty accurate, pretty up-to-date at that point in time. All right. So my sense is that I hear a consensus here that we'll wait till July, our regular July meeting, and do them all at once instead of adding an extra meeting. All right, member comments?
I just want to say I didn't get to the grand opening this weekend, but from what I heard and what I saw on drones, it was absolutely awesome, and congratulations to everyone who worked together to pull this off.
Yeah.
And parking, I understand, was,
Yeah, my secret boyhood
our chief parking.
wishes of
and-
being a traffic cop, you know?
I think the only thing that would have helped is if you had a ticket book, you could have.
It really was quite an event. I agree with you. It was, I think there was a lot of pride in Winchendon, rolling around that park that day. It is quite an impressive facility. If you haven't been
looked
over
good.
there yet, you really need to get over to
Yeah, it looks good.
it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does look good. It's laid out well,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
and,
That's great.
yeah, it really
Did you
is.
see the fireworks from your porch?
Yes. There's a look in the right direction once you figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it was,
That's great.
hats off to Mr. Croto and his crew. They,
Absolutely, yeah.
and the Recreation Department, that are embryonic Recreation Department, but it's got certainly a great way to, great start coming out of the gate, that's for sure.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Is the public awake?
Yeah. Any other comments? All right, hearing none. Public input? No?
Motion to adjourn, 7:30 precisely.
Second.
Motion adjourned, seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.